The leader of the Top Party, the leader of Top, is Raf Manji, and he joins us right now on his phone. G'day, Raf.
Yeah, good evening. So I was having a few Chrome issues, as you always do when you log onto these streaming systems.
No dramas at all. Just if you turn your phone sideways as well, then we'll get you in a beautiful landscape rather than portrait, and it'll look like we've done this before once or twice. Or just not. Or you can just leave it there. That's fine.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
You just leave it like that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, I think what we'll do, Raf, rather than even quizzing you about this, what I'd like to do is I'd like to watch the News Hub story with you, and because you feature in that, and then I've got some questions about it. I'm sure Chewy does too, and Chewy, if there's any questions in the chat about that, we'll monitor that as well. And 5-10 minutes after the News Hub story finishes, Raf, then we'll let you go and we'll get on. So thanks for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you making yourself available.
No problem.
So here is a story from tonight for people who haven't seen it, and it's all about Christchurch, really.
Kia ora, good evening. The plan was to have a leaders' debate, but instead Christchurch became the scene of another intriguing political possibility.
The event was scuppered when Chris Hipkins got COVID, though he's accusing Christopher Luxon of pulling out because Luxon refuses to find an alternative date. Yeah. But as Lloyd Burr reports, Luxon's also being urged to pull out of something else, the Ilam seat, to make way for the Opportunities Party and shut out Winston Peters.
Selfie after selfie in Christchurch.
Up the wires, brother.
The city Christopher Luxon grew up in.
Well, nice to meet you, mate.
But a city he won't debate in.
Hey, Rebecca, it's Chris Luxon here. How are you?
His phone calls with the press to reschedule tonight's debate probably weren't as cheery. It's still a no from him.
The Prime Minister has COVID, okay? It is what it is.
Chris Hipkins is isolating with COVID until Friday and wants to shift the staple election fixture to next week.
I've said that I'll make myself available as soon as I'm out of isolation. So any time between Friday and Thursday next week, I'll go to Christchurch in order to be able to debate Christopher Luxon.
Why can't you adapt to a new date?
Well, we're in the last week of a campaign and it's pretty hectic and it's pretty busy, and we've looked at it and we can't make it work. That is the #1 selling shoe in the world.
One tick blue on the shoe. The same for the party vote in Ilam is what the Opportunity Party, or TOP, wants in order to get leader Raf Manji into Parliament.
I'm going to win Ilam anyway, but I think from an insurance perspective, it makes a lot of sense. And I think people need and want...
Dan seems very confident.
Laying down this challenge to Luxon.
It's basically, it's Winston or Raf. Who do you want to deal with?
Calling on National to stand aside in Ilam so TOP gets into Parliament with a handful of MPs, meaning Luxon wouldn't have to rely on Winston Peters if that's what's needed to form a government.
So what's your message to Luxon?
Yeah, be strategic.
Electorate deals aren't new. National's done them with United Future and ACT before, most notably in 2011 with the infamous cup of tea with John Banks, more recently with David Seymour.
What's the advice that Seymour's given you?
Yeah, he said, you're in the same position I was in 2017. So he said, look, you just got to work hard in Ilam, try and get across the line.
That strategy is a bit naive. You don't win a seat because someone else says you should. You win a seat because the voters want you to represent them.
It's a strange response.
Nationals candidate Paul Goldsmith didn't campaign in Epsom, making it easier for Seymour.
Nationals candidate in Ilam is this guy, Hamish Campbell, but Luxon says he's not budging to make way for Raf Manji. Winston or Raf?
Yeah, and my message to New Zealanders 11 days out from an election is they're in charge, they're in control.
You wouldn't stand aside in order to keep Winston out of Parliament?
No, look, we're doing a really good ground campaign. We've got a lot of support and we're going to continue to work hard up to the 14th.
I think it's probably a lack of strategic thinking, not just about this election, but about future elections.
Luxon not only upsetting the Opportunities Party, but also this wee Canterbury kid.
Alrighty. Okay, so had you seen that yet, Raf, or is it the first time you've seen it?
I had,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I was there.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the package they put together? You seem to be smiling all the way through.
I don't actually, to be honest, I rarely watch a news story, but I thought I should actually have a look at it.
All right. So I got a bunch of questions. Right. The first one is, have you? Lloyd said it, but just checking that, make sure it's what happened. Have you actually talked to Seymour about what? Because the way it was sold was you've had a conversation with David Seymour about sort of what he did in Epsom. Did that conversation actually happen? And was it like a "can you give me advice" kind of conversation?
Oh, look, I mean, I have had a number of conversations with David Seymour over the last 3-4 months, from time to time, mainly because, again, I mean, the approach that I'm taking is being open to all parties. I have a relationship with James Shaw. I haven't spoken to him for a while. But, I like to keep the channels of communication open because, whether these guys like it or not, I could win Ilam, and then we've got a new party in Parliament. And I think fundamentally, if I can just say for a second, this goes back to 2017, as was raised in the story. And with Peter Dunne essentially stepping out of Parliament and United Future going, a partner who had been involved in most of the governments, I think, going back to the early 2000s, disappeared. So that was United Future.
Yeah.
And it's created a slight imbalance in Parliament where really the only option is Winston. And we saw that in 2017 when National suddenly fell a few seats, below what they needed. And Winston went into the deal with Labour. And during that 2017 election, where I was running again in Ireland, it was raised by a number of people that actually National needed another partner. Now, that didn't come to anything. Obviously, I mean, Jerry was not going to entertain any idea of not winning Ireland. But I think that's where this stuff has come from. So essentially, so I have been speaking to David Seymour, and the comment there, obviously, which is a takeaway line, clearly he was only in Parliament because National allowed him to be there.
Yeah.
And
what do you think about that? Because we've been kind of almost been confused. He seems to think he's always won Epsom fair and square. I don't think anyone else in New Zealand thinks that. They always think it's come from the handshake, and it's come from National allowing him to win it. Do you see Epsom the same way as that? And do you see if the same for you, like they'd have to stand aside for you to win Ilam?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I think Epsom, certainly in the initial days, was definitely National standing aside. And then I think, David became the elected MP and was, very well liked and probably won it on his own merits.
But he's there. He won it initially because they gave it to him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't seem to. He seems to have rewritten history a little bit on that, which is weird to me.
Yeah, people like to. They say winners write history, don't they?
Yeah. Fair enough.
But I think if you go back to 2017, ACT's party vote was like 0.2%. And so essentially he was just there, like Peter Dunne, as sort of an extra pair of hands, because in MMP you often need a few extra people. And in 2020, when National imploded, some of those votes went to ACT. They got 7%, and suddenly they built on that. So, they politically, he's done a great job. And now they're polling at whatever it is, 12%. I think for me in Ilam, this hasn't come up. I mean, a lot of people have said to me, why aren't National doing a deal with you? Now, those are National supporters from around the country and here. But I think it's the rise of Winston over the last sort of month that has got a lot more people saying to me, why are National not doing something here? Because a lot of National supporters don't want to deal with Winston. They've been burnt by him before. But there are some National supporters that do like Winston. I mean, the big money that has suddenly appeared for Winston is the same big money that has been backing National and ACT. So some of, I'd say, probably the older New Zealanders might not be too bothered about New Zealand First, but younger people definitely are bothered about it. So this is why this has come up now in terms of a formal deal. I mean, there's not going to be any formal deal. National's made that quite clear, but the people of Ireland will make that decision. So those people who might have been wavering about Raf or Hamish might go, oh, actually, we don't want Winston. And essentially, this is free insurance because if Winston gets 5%, he will hold the balance of power.
So it sounds like what you're saying, Raf, it sounds like what you're saying is, on some level, this is just a publicity exercise for you to educate the people of Ilam that this is what they need to do if they want to keep Winston out. The story said, quote, Luxon's being urged. The story said, you saying it makes sense. You said in the story, or the story said that you're calling on National to stand aside. You said in the story, it's Winston or Raf. It does sound like this is coming from you as an idea, but you're also saying this is not going to happen. So on some level, is it just a way to educate Ilam? You voters from National should actually put me in, and then we can block Winston.
Well, I think in terms of, we ran a story on our socials last week when we saw Winston at 5%. And, we worked out from the electoral calculator, yes, that we would offer another option. So we sort of said, okay, this is a great option for us to educate people locally, Winston or Raf. Now, obviously, that has gathered some interest from people, and the media have decided they want to run a story. So I didn't call the media, and I haven't been calling for National to do a deal or stand aside, but we have had conversations in the background. National's made it clear they're not interested in doing that. And the media have decided to run a story on it, which is good because there's not many other stories to run at the moment after the the cancellation of the press debate, and probably a little bit more focus on Christchurch, which is good. I mean, we were all looking forward to the debate tonight. It's always a kind of rowdy debate at the town hall. And this is the facts of the matter. I mean, the outcomes of this election, to a high probability are either a National Act government on their own. If Winston gets 5%, it's the National Act New Zealand First government, probably, because nothing else really adds up. Yeah. Or if I win Ilam, it's a National Act government with either New Zealand First or TOP as an alternative partner. Now, there's nothing we can do about those outcomes. All I can do is win Ilam and get us into Parliament, which has been the idea all along. And yeah, I'm confident that I'm going to win Ilam, and we'll see what happens. But strategically for MMP, I do think it's important that we have another party in Parliament. Otherwise, we're going to be back here with New Zealand First in three years' time.
Yeah, but you winning Ilam doesn't change New Zealand First. I mean, New Zealand First will be there or they won't. You winning Ilam's not going to change New Zealand First being in Parliament or not. What you're saying is it may change them being in government, but you winning Ilam won't change them being in Parliament.
No, there's no crossover between us and New Zealand First in terms of that party vote. New Zealand First are gathering votes from the fringe parties. We're seeing emails where they're saying, let's support Winston. We're seeing Winston at meetings with, Freedom New Zealand and people like that saying, look, come on board the New Zealand train. So you can see that pickup because it only takes a couple of percent. And, he could get 6 or 7%. So that doesn't make any difference to us. It just makes a difference to what the next government looks like.
Well, but even that's a maybe, isn't it? Because if you were just looking at the polling, if you're lucky, if you were to win, you might drag one other person with you. So that means really National Act still have to get to 59 seats in theory for you to be that balance of power. If they were to get, say, 57 seats and you were to get 2, you still can't help them get over the line.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get more than that. I think that I think we'll get at least 2%. I think we could get 3%. I think the Tamaki polling tonight had us at 2%. I think we will end up with 3 MPs.
But even if that's the case, with my hypothetical numbers, if they had 57 seats, 3 gets you to 60, you're still not there. Yeah. So what I'm saying is the story was a little bit like, he could be a replacement to Winnie, but only if you have enough MP, only if you A, get there, and then B, have enough MPs to give them the balance of power. There's a couple of caveats to go with that as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, nobody knows what the final numbers are going to be. The numbers we've been working on as if Winston gets 5%, National Act will have probably 59 or 60. But of course, everything depends on the final results. So from our perspective, what happens to New Zealand First is not really that relevant to us getting into Parliament. In terms of the outcomes from National's point of view, if they were being strategic, they want to have as many options as possible. That's just the basic facts of the matter, but that's not going to change the decisions that people make. As far as Ilam is concerned, the question for voters here is, do you want Raf or Hamish as your MP? And I'm confident that they're going to pick me.
That'll be obviously one of the areas we're watching, because I know that you've had some internal polling that says you're doing really well. The only polling I guess we've seen is the public hasn't been saying quite that. So that'll be one we're certainly watching on the day. And I guess I would say to you, as I would say to most MPs, good luck for the election on the day. Here's the thing that I want to get to. This is the 3rd time you've been on with us. The first time you were on with just me, in fact, just with me, you were talking about no matter what happens, you're going to sit in the crossbenches and support nobody. The second time we had you on, you said you're going to sit in the crossbenches, but you might give supply and confidence. And you could do it to either side. And I pushed you quite hard on, but how do you decide which way you would go? And you were like, well, that's for after the election. We'd decide based on what we could get through. And now it seems like you're saying, well, we'll support National. So the thing that I'm interested in is why, from the outside looking in, and look, I've been really honest with you. I actually, some of your policies are things I've been talking about for 20 years. So I like a lot of your policies, and I like you a lot, actually. But this idea of, National's not my bag, baby, so I can't give my support to someone.
I get that.
but I can't give my support to someone who may uphold a national government. So it's nothing personal. It's just purely strategic. And so I've told you this, and people seem to think that I don't like TOP. It's not that at all. It's pure strategy. It's nothing.
It's okay. A lot of people don't like TOP. That's fine.
Well, no, but that's not us. Well, certainly not me. I think Chewy might hate you a bit, but no, it's just not me. Sorry, Chewy. I'm joking. It seems now that the only party you'll go with is National. What happens if they did do a deal with you? What happens if Labour came to you and said, we'll give you Ilam, because you and the Labour MP together probably would equal the seat, would you then just flip your allegiance and support them, and you wouldn't support National? It does feel quite strange, Raf, that it seems that you've gone from a we won't support anyone, we'll sit across the benches, to we might give supply and confidence to either side, to hey, National, we'll do a deal with you. It feels quite bizarre, and not to talk negatively of you, but there is one comment here. Very disappointed with you, Raf, tying up with National. Why not Labour? I thought you were better than that. Now, I don't want to comment on the better than that, but I get the idea of I thought you were the neutral one, and now it seems like no, you're going to uphold a national government only. Now, if you're going to say, but that's what the numbers say, I don't buy that yet. But it seems that you're throwing your bag in with National, and I'm interested at that journey and how you've got there.
Yeah, well, look, I would disagree with that. I mean, these are electoral realities, and we will still be on the crossbenches. I mean, we're not going, we're not interested in being in government. But obviously, so if you think about the potential outcomes, if New Zealand First doesn't get 5%, and I still win Ilam, National Act will govern on their own, okay? And we'll be sitting on the crossbenches.
Yeah.
So all that is different is that if New Zealand First wins 5%, it's likely that we can also offer, let's say, surety to a stable government. And that's all that means. I mean, anything above that obviously depends on what potentially could happen after the election. In terms of Labour have no path to government. I mean, it's as simple as that. And I'll be frank, Labour have not spoken to me at all, ever, about anything. So, and that's the way things are. So,
but National has? You're saying National has spoken to you about things?
Well, I'd say I have a much better relationship with National than Labour. I've got no relationship with Labour at all. And that's, that's the way it is. But in terms of what's going to happen, I don't think there are many options in front of us that haven't been discussed, because that's, the polling is reasonably steady over a long period of time. Now, that doesn't mean on the day things might be different. But with New Zealand First and Labour not able to work together, that means, that option is out. I mean, National could work with the Greens. Yeah, and this happens every election. This kind of National Green coalition gets raised, and we know that it's not going to happen. But
that's not going to happen.
What we want to see is a parliament where people can work together. And who's to say that National? I mean, I don't think they've got the capability to do it. But who's to say they don't have a minority government where they work with all parties in Parliament to pass the legislation they want to pass? Now, that's what MMP was designed to be like. That's not how
Did you say who's to say that? I would say Christopher Luxon has already said that, refusing to work with some parties.
I mean, look, I
think Christopher Luxon and Seymour and Winston Peters have already said that. So who's to say that? Those three leaders have said would say that.
Yeah, well, look, we're getting to the end game of this election, and it's reasonably clear how things are going to pan out. So, as far as I'm concerned, my main goal is to get the Opportunities Party into Parliament, and I'm going to do that by winning Ilam, and then we'll see what happens.
So my last question, Stu, I know I've asked every question, then you can jump in with whatever you want, sir. What happens if Labour offered you a cup of tea?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't even had a conversation.
No, but you haven't had an offer from National either, and we're having that conversation. What would you do if Labour said to you, well, we'll put all our support behind you now and tell all our people to vote for you? What would that mean for you?
I don't think I'd be interested in that. I mean, to be honest, I don't really want a cup of deal. It's I'm going to win Ilam, but strategically for National, it makes sense for them to have insurance.
Hang on. You're saying you don't want a cup of tea deal, but you also said in that article that you're calling on National to stand aside.
Well, I'm not calling on National to stand aside. No, I have never said that. So you're digging a little bit under the ground here and putting words in my mouth, which I haven't said.
Okay, I'll repeat that. The article said, and it seemed to be attributing it to you. So you're not calling on National to stand aside. You've never had that intimation publicly.
No, because that would be rude. I mean, it's a contest, and I think it would be rude to ask someone to stand aside. No, but the voters of Ireland will make up their minds based on the outcomes they think that might happen.
So you're not calling them on to stand aside, but you do say it makes sense if you were to win Ilam.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It kind of feels like, I'm not telling you to do anything, but it would make sense if you did. Yeah, it just seems, anyway. Look, I'm really grateful you came on. We love having you on. Chewy, I'm not hogging all this time. Is there anything you want to ask or anything you want to get you from the chat?
Oh, you've blown through every single one of the thoughts, Pat. It's fantastic. Look, I've just been gauging I guess the temperature of the chat, and we've got a reasonably, you know, our chat, Raf. We're pretty lefty, but there's the crunchy croutons of some right leaning folk in the chat as well, and it's real interesting. I think what we're seeing is the reaction to this is almost the curse of trying to be in the center, right? You're not keeping any of our chat happy.
Yeah, no one's going to be pleased. But
no.
But what I would say is, on the ground here in Ilam, none of this really makes a lot of difference. I mean, I've just been at my 7th student flat chat. I've got another 10 to do over the next 10 days. Coffee catch-ups, pints with Raf. You know, what people take away here on the ground is, we don't want Winston. Yeah, it would be silly for people not to vote for you. It's as simple as that. But people are not. They're not political nerds. They're not kind of into the weeds of this stuff. It's it's not a big deal to most people. They're going to make their decision on essentially who they want to be their MP, and their party vote. Yeah, will go wherever. I think pretty much people believe it's going to be a national-led government, and the only story for a lot of people is, you know, they either do or they don't want Winston in charge of the next government. That's pretty much it.
I think that's where I'm at as well. Is like, any way you can get into Parliament is great for top, right? Once you're in, you know, there's a pretty good chance that you'll grow and you'll stay in there as well. Much, I guess, as ACT have. And then the other part that I quite like about it is, if there's any way to shut Winston out, you know, if it just came down to like, well, we only need one more seat and Top's got one, and Winston, for some reason, let's say he's got 5, and they go, well, we just need the one. We don't need this guy. That would be delicious. And I would swallow that pill.
So I guess Chewy's actually echoing what you've said. Chewy's actually saying
essentially, yeah. I mean, you can play. This is the problem with MMP. This is the problem with the threshold. You know, the fight, and even for New Zealand First. I mean, if they get 5.1, they've got 6 MPs. If they get 4.9, they've got no MPs, and it's kind of unfair. And I think I think somebody wrote a good piece on this. Yeah, essentially, the 5% threshold pretty much precludes new parties coming in, and you know, we have to think about either we're just going to stick with what we've got, in which case we've sort of got first past the post, left or right, or we have something where it's a bit more context and people can work across the aisle, and you could have Christopher Luxon saying to James Shaw, do you want to keep being Minister of Climate Change, because actually you know all about this stuff and it's all a bit complicated, none of us understand the ETS anyway, and you know, we're not quite there. And I think if we can get into Parliament, my hope is that we can change those conversations and that we can have different types of agreements about different types of policies which actually deliver better outcomes for Kiwis. And, you know, yes, maybe I'm being a bit optimistic, but this is the election where we're going to test that hypothesis to see if it works.
I do have one other question. It's a bit of a negative question. Sorry, Raf, but I just did think about it just as you guys were talking. What happens on the Monday after election if you don't get there? What happens to Raf's life? What are you doing?
Oh, God. Having a rest, I'd imagine. Look, I don't know. A few people have asked me about that. I think for me, I guess I'll make a decision then. The party, that's not my decision. That's a decision for the board and the members, which we'll deal with at AGM, I think, in early December. It's I put everything into this. And things are going well here. I mean, it feels like my 2013 council campaign, where a lot of people thought I wasn't going to win, and I did. And it feels like the ground feedback is really good. And, you know, we have a very broad ground campaign here and a lot of networks, and it's pretty positive.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Always appreciate it, Raf. Maybe we're actually going to do a live stream on the night of the election. Maybe we can send you the link, and if you've got spare 2 minutes, one way or the other, and best of luck. You can jump on for a few minutes and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, let's see what happens. It's going to be an interesting election, and there's a lot of people out there who are basically just unhappy with Labour and National, and I think it's hard to know where they're going to stick their vote.
Yeah, very good. Raf Manji, leader of TOP.
Okay,
best of luck for the next 10 or 12 days, and good luck with the election.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
All right, all the best.
Thanks, Raf.